Where do you go, little bird, when it snows, when it snows, when the world turns to sleep? Do you know, do you know, is it something in the wind, breeze a chill in your heart, and life in your wings? Does it whisper, start again, start again? Where is the sun in the night? Is it cold? Is it cold? Does it feel left behind, all alone, all alone? Does it wander through the dark? Does it wait for the dawn? Wish on a star? Does it stray very far? Very far. Where is your home, restless wind? Is it there? Is it here? Search for a place to belong. Search in vain, search in fear. Is your spirit everywhere? Is your voice every tree? Soul of the air. If there's no home, is there no death? Is there no death? Is there no death?
Come in to our house of hope and love, of peace and justice, of wholeness and healing. Come in where we welcome the certain and the seeking, the lifers and the newcomers, the beloved and the brokenhearted. All of you can find a home here at Throop, where we go love the world from the heart of Pasadena and from the heart of our homes. Today, we continue our journey through the book of Psalms, and we'll discover the many ways that creation itself offers praise and thanksgiving. With awe and wonder, we'll behold how the breath of life shows up in the elements: fire, water, earth, air. And we'll think about how that presence continues to hold us through these days. As much as you are able in these moments, set aside any outside distractions and continue to turn toward one another as we move across the threshold into our shared sacred space.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Our time together in worship is intimately connected with our daily lives. As a symbol of that connection, we light 3 flames this morning. We light our home chalices in a spirit of love, hope, and peace with these words. From eco-womanist theologian Karen Baker Fletcher. There is a kiss of the heart, to the heart, from God within, drinking tears as they fall like rain, enriching thirsty soil with new green things, shining up whole and ripe and new again. We light a second candle to honor the people and ancestors whose lands we now occupy. The land under and around Throop was once, and is still, home of the tongue of the people. May this knowledge and awareness lead us into seeking justice and equity for all. We light a third candle, symbolizing our hopes and bearing witness to the injustices in this world. We take a moment of silence, holding all of these in our hearts.
Lift up your eyes, behold the hills, from where will help and rescue come. We call on one who made the earth, who blessed the stars, the moon and sun. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. Turn down your gaze upon the earth. Where is the one who never sleeps? We call on one guard you now, your spirit safe in holy keep. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. Venturing out or coming home, 'neath heat of day or cool of night, we call on one who hears your voice and comes to heal and keep your life. Oh, God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. We believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. God is holding your life. Yes, God is holding.
In Unitarian Universalism, we draw wisdom from 6 sources. One of those sources is the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. One way we know that transcending mystery and wonder is through our relationship with Earth herself. When we stop and appreciate the beauty around us, when we acknowledge the Earth's resources that sustain us, when we utter our thanks for all that is, we are joining in a chorus of praise that is already in motion, sung by all creatures of the earth and sky and universe. Each Sunday, we say our Throop collective thanks for our deepening relationship with Earth by saying together our promise to our planet. Please join me. As members of the family of living
Members of the family of living beings on earth,
We are guided
we
by
are
the
guided by the Unitarian
principles
Universalists
of
of
respect for
respect
the
for the
interdependent
interdependent
web
web
of
of
all
all
existence
of
of
which we are a
which
part.
we are a part.
With hearts filled with
Hearts
love
filled
for
with
it,
love for it,
eyes
eyes
nurtured by its
nurtured by its
beauty,
beauty,
and
and
minds
minds
ruminating
ruminating
on
on
ways
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 to
to
protect
protect
its
its
sacred and
scarce
scarce
resources.
resources.
We
We
promise
promise to nurture the
well
well-being of
being
all life
of all
and of
life
the
and
planet
of the
itself.
planet itself.
well-being of all life and of the planet itself. You all, we just joined in our own little bit of singing praises for creation by saying our promise to our planet together. And this is an opportunity, if you have not already done so, to intentionally welcome one another in the chat box. And if you want to move yourself into gallery view so you can see more of the thumbnail videos of people who have gathered here today. And as always, I'm going to look through and wave at you all, and you can wave back at me, and also our friends who are joining us on Facebook Live. They are seeing you right now, and hello. We're glad you are joining us in that mode as well. Happy Sunday. A reminder that if you are new to Throop, we would love to stay connected with you. And at some point, there'll be a link to a newcomer sign up in the chat box.
Oh my God.
We'll get that in there soon. This morning, I've invited Rachel and Dave Ryan to share a couple of readings, one from the Psalms and one a more contemporary reading that just kind of lifts up the way creation praises itself. So Rachel and Dave, we will get you in the spotlight.
Psalm 29, the voice of God in a great stream. Give glory to Adonai in the splendor of holiness. The voice of Adonai resounds over the waters, thunders over the raging seas. This voice is powerful and full of majesty. The voice of Adonai snaps the cedars, shatters the cedars of Lebanon. The voice of Adonai strikes with bolts of lightning and shakes the wilderness. The voice of Adonai twists the oaks, strips the forests bare, gives strength to the people, and blesses the people with peace.
And this is Push Forward by Daniel Allen. The river didn't stop because of a few rocks. It went around it. It got over it. It pushed forward. The river didn't stop because it was forceful. It changed the landscape around it. It changed direction when necessary. It pushed forward. The river didn't stop because it knew how to adapt. It was constantly changing. It was persistently evolving. It pushed forward.
Thank you. And so holding these images of the voice of creation in water, thinking about the river itself having agency. I know some of you gathered have a heart connection with our own Arroyo watershed, the waters that flow in and around the lands we live on. I invite you to sort of bring yourself into a moment of stillness, whatever that looks like for you in a Zoom room. I know it can be complicated. Perhaps in a home space where you're not necessarily kind of by yourself and in stillness mode. But just, again, whatever that means to you, kind of bring your mind and heart focused a little bit inward. And if it makes sense for you to close your eyes, to not be focused on a screen in this moment, put your hand on your heart or on your belly, just connecting in with your body that has been moving you through the world as best it can. I know some days probably better than others. Just take some moments of stillness, taking a breath in, exhaling, and paying attention to what parts of creation can you hear right now? I can hear dogs barking, an airplane overhead, a car on a nearby street. And just letting these sounds remind you that you are intimately and intricately connected in with this web of life. Sometimes loud and boisterous, sometimes sounding like rushing waters, and other times like chirping birds, and other times just the sounds of urban life. I invite you to just spend a few moments together holding awareness for whatever senses are kind of awakening in you in this moment. And just as we bring an awareness to our senses on Sunday, we also hold awareness that we gather here in this circle, but it's comprised of people who are connected to us who aren't necessarily here today. And for those of you who have someone in your circle of care and compassion that needs some extra love and healing energy and attention today, I invite you to put their names in our chat box. And I invite you to kind of move your awareness over to those names and in whatever way makes sense for you to hold those names and these greater connections among us in your own heart and in your own mind. Denise lifts up Rex and Matthew, Jean, and Christina. Ian lifts up grandfather Richard. Karina is bringing her brother into our circle of care and compassion. Chris brings in Lewis and family. Andriana lifts up Chris and Jennifer and the family. Taryn brings in Cameron. Denise lifts up Mike. Lynn's asking us to keep in our hearts her son Graham, who lives in Austin, Texas. Garrison bringing in George, who's always thought of when Garrison passes the garden on his way to work. We hold Paula's friend Allison, who is suffering as a COVID long hauler. Maureen brings in Pat. Pat and Emma lift up Christine and Debbie. Rachel asks us to hold James. Marissa brings in Jessica, John, Rowley, Macy, and Andrew. If you are someone who's watching our service on Facebook, and if there's someone in your circle of care and compassion that you want our community to lift up in the coming days, please feel free to add that into the Facebook comments and we will see them later. So as we hold all of these names, mindful of our connections that go far beyond just this Zoom circle, I invite you to make the gesture of cupped hands like we've been doing this month. Thank you. Some of you have something in your cupped hands as well. And choose someone in our Zoom space and just with your own intention, move your cupped hands toward them as a sign that you're offering your peace and love. And know that just as you are offering that to someone, you are receiving it from someone else. And then I ask you to place your cupped hands over your heart as a sign that you are sending your own heartfelt peace and love out into the world and toward the names that have been shared in service today. For all that is our life, we give our thanks and praise. Amen.
How cute. Look at the Throop. The little women. Little candle.
All creatures of the earth and sky, come, kindred, lift your voices high. Alleluia, alleluia. Bright burning sun with golden beam, soft shining moon with silver gleam. Alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Swift rushing wind, so wild and strong, white clouds that sail in heaven along. Alleluia, alleluia. Fair rising morning, praise, rejoice. High stars of evening find a voice. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Cool flowing water, pure and clear, make music for all life to hear. Alleluia, alleluia. Dance, flame of fire so strong and bright, and bless us with your warmth and light. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Embracing earth, you day by day, bring forth your blessings on our way. Alleluia, alleluia. All herbs and fruits that richly grow, let them the glory also show. Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
Hallelujah to you all. This morning, our words for worship have included a sense of awe and wonder for our world, in particular for water. We just heard Chris sing Cool Flowing Water, Pure and Clear. Rachel and Dave shared words from Psalm 29 that imagine the voice of Adonai being heard in a great stream. They also shared imagery from a contemporary poem that tells of a river changing, evolving, pushing forward. And Jamal opened the service talking of a kiss of the heart, drinking tears as they fall like rain. These all lift up water as a part of us, moving with a life of its own, its music resounding as the voice of all that is resplendent, sacred, amazing, with its very essence. This month, we're exploring the Psalms. This book from the Hebrew Bible contains 150 sacred songs or hymns that offer praise and also offer lamentation. The Psalms give us poetic language to celebrate and thank the breath of life that moves in, around, and among us. Some interpreters have noted that the book of Psalms is also full of images of nature itself offering praise. And this occurs in at least 14 of the Psalms. This week, thinking about nature offering its own praise to creation, I've been watching and listening to Earth a bit differently. When I hear the loud caws of the crows each afternoon, or when I notice another jonquil opening its bright yellow petals, I realize that they might be saying in their own language, yes, thank you, alleluia. Thinking of creation, being able to offer its own language and type of praise, where have you experienced that in some way in the last week? And if something comes to mind, I invite you to drop it into our chat box. As humans, we sometimes think of ourselves as being separate from Earth. And these days, maybe more than ever, with so many of us tucked up inside some kind of shelter, it's not as simple as it once was to go outside or go to a park or even volunteer in Throop Learning Garden. And Western religious traditions have taught that humans have a special relationship to Earth or to nature. They've taught that humans sit up at the top of a hierarchical pyramid and that we've been given dominion or stewardship over Earth. And while I personally prefer the concept of stewardship over the word dominion, because I feel like stewardship implies us tending and caring for Earth rather than dominating Earth, I think even thinking about us in that regard assumes that we are somehow separate from the rest of nature. Each week we recite together our promise to our planet, and we are reminded that we are indeed part of an interconnected web, interdependent with the rest of creation. The breath of life moves through every part of creation. We are all born of stardust. We are Earth, and Earth is each one and all of us. Eco-theologians, eco-feminists, and eco-womanists are writing, thinking, talking, organizing about ways we can understand ourselves spiritually as part of all creation rather than separate from it. There's something called the Earth Bible Project, and it attempts to read the Bible from the perspective of Earth. This project identifies 6 eco-justice principles, and you may not be surprised to learn that several of those eco-justice principles sound a lot like some of our UU7 principles. And one of those 6 eco-justice principles is the principle of voice. Earth is a subject capable of raising her voice in celebration and against injustice. So earlier I invited you to think about or name some ways that you hear Earth offering praise. And I wonder if there are ways you hear Earth raising her voice against injustice. What does that sound like? One writer describes Earth's voice raised against injustice as the moaning of all creation. And this is an injustice against all parts of creation, not only what we call nature, but also against humans. And then for me, these injustices that we experience against Earth, against the creatures of the earth and sky, against each other, these are actions that I put in the category of sin.
Now, I know that that's not a word we use a lot in Unitarian Universalism, and I get that there's lots of layers of feeling and emotion around that word. I tend to frame it in more of a Jewish way, probably not a big surprise, which is thinking about it as a break in relationship. I love a wisdom tale about sin as a break in relationship. And it goes like this. It said that God up in heaven, and if God language doesn't work for you, please do your own translation, holds each one of us by a string. And when we sin, when we break relationship, we are in essence cutting the string, cutting the connection between ourselves and God, ourselves and what we know, ourselves and others. And when we cut that string and realize what we've done, we ask for help. We ask for forgiveness. And God, or the sacred, she ties the string again, making a knot, thereby bringing us closer. Again and again in our lives, we cut the string, and again, our Creator reties it. With each knot, the string becomes shorter and shorter, and we are drawn closer and closer to that which moves in us all. Eco-womanist Karen Baker Fletcher, whose poem we heard during the chalice lighting, writes about our religious and spiritual need to tie the string together to make the wounded whole again. She says, restoration of right relationship with God includes restoration of right relationship with one another and with earth. Restoration of right relationship with earth requires restoration of right relationship between peoples across class lines, so that a healthy environment becomes a right of all instead of a privilege of the wealthy. From God to earth to people, this restoration is redemptive because we move closer toward the love that holds us all, toward a sacred intention of interdependence. As Unitarian Universalists, we understand that we have an active role to play in tying that string. We are not waiting for someone or something else to do it for us. Where in your own lives do you feel that a connection has been frayed, or that a connection's just been severed altogether? Is it between you and what you name as sacred or holy? Is it between you and earth? Between you and someone else? Lynn Costello, Throop member, wrote about how she navigates the relationship between herself and all that is, and with her permission, I share her words with you today. She wrote that a meditation I was listening to recently made reference to expanding our gaze while narrowing our focus. Initially, that seemed hard to comprehend, but then I realized I do frequently engage in that practice. The book Alcoholics Anonymous states that inside every person is the fundamental idea of God. And it's been my experience that in order to identify what beliefs and values are deep inside of me, I must first pay attention to and examine the larger picture. Then I can better determine my actual truth. She goes on to say, understanding and accepting that I am a very small part of the whole is actually very comforting. And a friend once expressed the belief that there is you and there is me, and God is everything in between. In the coming days, I invite you to pay ever so close and careful attention to where you hear Earth raising her voice in celebration and also against injustice. You may hear it in the sounds of water or the chattering of birds or in the sirens of the city. And as you hear Earth singing her own psalms, consider one meaningful action you can take, an action that's meaningful to you, that will help tie that broken string back together. Now let's turn toward Earth celebrating herself through the dancing of birds. May it be so. There's so many ways that you all support our Throop community life. Thank you, first of all, to those of you who helped make today's service happen. Matthew on tech, Jamal for offering chalice lighting, Lynn Sexton, chat box greeter, Rachel and Dave for sharing the poem, and Chris for your uplifting music. And for those of you who have the financial resources to share, we ask that you please do continue donating to Throop. I think those links will be in the chat box soon. There it is. Thank you, Matthew. I also want to give a little extra thank you today for the team that was in the Throop Learning Garden yesterday. Oh, I don't have all the names in my thing. Okay. Thank you to Paula and Laramie, Jean, Stephanie, Gordon and Tom, Diane, Barbara. I know I'm missing some names, but if you think of who I'm missing, will you put them in the chat box? Oh my gosh, of course George Patton was in the garden. And David Drum and Clara, yes. They did a lot of work out there. It's looking very beautiful. If you're able to kind of go by the Throop Learning Garden, I encourage you to do that because it is definitely doing its own praise of creation and earth right now with this spring season coming. And so for all of the ways that people contribute to Throop, some more visible than others, I'll ask us to move into our thanks for the offering. And let's say these words together. For the ministries of the church in our community, we bless,
We bless our offering with love and hope.
And this month, we are also asking you to send your love out into the world by signing on to the Black Lives Matter LA petitions. One of them in particular is asking that the police be decoupled from the Department of Children and Family Services. I think probably Matthew can get the link to this petition as well as 2 more. In the chat. And again, this is just a way collectively as Throop that we are trying to move our resource of time into these asks from Black Lives Matter LA. And now we are going to turn our attention to Garrison Hack, who has a special announcement today. And Garrison serves on our board of trustees.
In our weekly service, we're reminded of our gifts of time, our gifts of talent, and our gifts of treasure. For many of us, the weekly donation seems to be in line with our gifts of treasure. Some of us have a green thumb in the garden, are able to write poems or homilies or bring music to the service. These are examples of talent, and we also never forget those who provide their gifts of time by agreeing to join action committees, by fighting for the rights of those whose voices aren't heard, or by preparing kits and packages for those who are less fortunate than we. Now and again, there's a call to action that cannot be performed with a buy now or a click here. This particular call is a request for your donation of blood. Throop Unitarian Universalist Church is hosting a blood donation drive for the American Red Cross of Pasadena on April 7th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. According to the Red Cross, the need for blood is constant, and also your donation could save up to 3 lives. And if this is your first time donating blood, being inside Throop will surely make the experience more meaningful. Giving the gift of life is not something that everyone can do. It is, however, an extremely valuable gift that can be significantly important to someone in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrison. And so for those of you who lit a chalice or a candle at home, we turn and extinguish it. We carry its light with us in all that we do in the days to come. As we begin to turn away from this space, let's put peace into each other's hands and hold it like treasure. Protect it like a candle flame and enfold it with tenderness. Let's put love into each other's hands with care. Be gentle in your words and ways, offering gratitude with your whole heart for one another and for creation. I love you all. Go out and love the world. Amen and blessed be. You are invited to stay for the postlude and be here for our coffee chat. If you need to refill your mug of holy water, whatever that might be this morning, come back in and stay for a little conversation. Happy Sunday.